What's going on, Don't Unfriend Me Nation? Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Good to have you here. Brought to you by Spreely TV. You can go over to Spreely.tv and check us out over there. Remember Jason Aldean, Try It in a Small Town? This was a huge success for Don't Unfriend Me. I mean, we had a couple memes that just went absolutely viral. One of the shows went viral. This was a pretty cool thing is, you know, when there's controversy, you want to try to be in the middle of it, and especially when you have a show like this and you want to bring different perspectives. I had a hard time, and I struggled, and I still do, with bringing the other side of the argument to the table. I've listened to them, and I find them to be petulant and just obnoxious, but some people find me to be the same way. CBS did an interview with Jason Aldean, his first since the controversy of Try It in a Small Town. We're going to bring it to you next, right after this.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more f***ed up than the lies on the evening news? Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss and make up for the party ends.
That is Still Point, the Don't Unfriend Me band. You can find them on iTunes at Still Point, STIILPOINT. This is Jason Aldean, and you can find him pretty much everywhere. The guy is a huge success. He's done amazing stuff. You're going to hear a little bit about it, and I want to get to it on the CBS interview. I want you to focus on Jason Aldean not moving, and it's enriching and also kind of just admirable that the guy was absolutely canceled. And people went after this guy, called him a racist. You started pulling up his past and posts that he made, where he was from, what shirts he wore. They did everything they could to cancel this guy, and he always held his ground and stayed firm. And it was I don't know, I thought it was pretty admirable. That's a lot of pressure from the music industry, from your producers, to the marketing department, to the local news, and especially your fans. And this polarized the community. Let's watch the video. I'll have some commentary throughout.
Our Jan Crawford met up with Aldean at the studio in Nashville where he recorded it. This is his first network news interview about the controversy.
How have you influenced country?
We definitely brought a little bit of a different sound in. It was a little heavier. It had a lot of rock and roll elements to what we were doing.
But success wasn't instant. 25 years ago, when Aldean moved from Georgia to Nashville with tattoos and his Southern rock vibe, the industry said no thanks. Aldean never wavered.
I was writing songs and at one point had lost my writing deal too. So it was tough. I mean, it's like, you know, maxing out credit cards just to buy like formula or diapers or.
I got to give CBS credit here. And I usually, whether it be 60 Minutes or any of the things that they do on the you know, over the air channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, etc., are usually crap. I'm just going to be honest. But this interview humanized Jason Aldean a little bit. They went into his life and some of his successes. And honestly, I'll say that the interview was fairly well done. I found that they had to ask those questions in regards to the controversy. They also talked about the Las Vegas shooting and some other things. So, you know, although I think CBS could have come at him a very different way, which was just browbeat him with this and incessantly, they didn't. They were fairly fair and balanced, which is also kind of refreshing at times. And it's something you don't see very often. Once again, Jason, I don't feel he prepped for this. When she asks him this question coming up in this next segment, he just straight up won't even let her finish the question and already is wanting to answer it. And then he kind of pulls back and lets her finish. But to me, he doesn't seem rehearsed. He doesn't seem coached. And I think he's always wanted to tell his story. But he was probably told not to. He was probably told to pull back a little bit and not necessarily get involved. Because when you have that negative and positive press coming from both ends, it's not a bad thing. There's nothing like it. In fact, there's a ton of podcasters and talking heads who made a lot of money off this and made a ton of ad revenue and t-shirt sales and stuff like that. I'm one of them. And it breeds conversation, and even the negative press can sometimes be positive. In this case, it's a prime example. Let's listen to the rest of the interview.
Those kind of things. And it finally did take off. It was full steam ahead for me to try and take advantage of it.
Nearly 2 decades later, Aldean's had 28 #1 singles. But over the
That's
summer,
incredible.
Aldean, who doesn't shy away from expressing his views,
Pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool?
found himself in the middle of controversy over his song, Try That in a Small Town.
Stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think
One of the things I always thought about when I was researching these is, where are all the black people at? Everyone's like, this is all about black people. No, it's not. It's a ton of white people. And in fact, Jason Aldean and the production company specifically used footage that wasn't to BLM or state-based riots. They focused on Canada. There were some in France. And yes, they did have some film footage from Antifa, Oregon, Washington, and also some of the BLM riots. But predominantly, it was just all about people who are, not peacefully protesting and destroying public property and destroying lives. Try that in a small town and watch what's going to happen. F around and find out is the message. So I thought it was pretty funny when I watched the video again that I didn't see any of the things that people said, and it was very hard for me to point this out. And when they linked the courthouse to this, that's when I'm like, okay, people are reaching. They're desperate for any bit of information where they can label Jason Aldean as a racist, and that's why I could not find a balanced viewpoint in the middle here. And I was completely on Jason's side, and I still am till this day.
It divided the internet.
Jason Aldean's song is racist, and if you can't see that, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, that's not the way it works. these fallacies of A is B equals C. There's a great Latin phrase for that if you haven't heard it, but it's just a logical fallacy. It's because you believe this, therefore this is true. And unfortunately, that's not the way life works. But this was the argument that you were hearing from the left.
Talked about was people who
And this guy, you like, there's no way he's going to defend Aldean. Well, listen.
steal, people who carjack, people who burn flags, and you interpret that as he must be speaking about black people.
Support
Not necessarily what I would consider a Jason Aldean fan, but country brings in all types of people from all different backgrounds.
felt the song upheld small-town values in uncertain times,
around here we take care of our own.
while others heard racism and subtle calls for violence.
What was your
Subtle.
reaction when you saw people saying that this had racist undertones and, it was like a call to arms, it was like a call to arms in small towns. It was a threatening kind of video for black people. I mean, people were putting this on like
But there was
TikTok.
people of all color doing stuff in the video. That's what I don't understand. There was white people in there. There was black people. I mean, this video did not shine light on one specific group and say that's the problem. So, and anybody that saw that in the video, then you weren't looking hard enough in the video, is all I can tell you.
The song mostly flew under the radar when it was released, but when the music video came out in July, it took off.
That's an interesting
skyrocketing to
point.
#1 across all musical genres.
I mean, that kind of undercuts the entire argument. We'll talk about it in the nuts, but right there, that's the whole point. And I got to, once again, give CBS credit because that really, truly addresses the entire conversation from the Vegas shooting to the color of his skin to the courthouse to his weight to the shirts he wore to where he came from. It wasn't a big deal until somebody said it was. And isn't that the truth for most things that happen in today's society, is that we are told and prescribed what to be frustrated by instead of thinking for ourselves.
Genres in the country.
I love the song. I was excited to cut it and thought it was actually a song that said something for a change, not just here's another song for radio.
Did you think, well, this might not go over well with some people, but I'm going to say it?
On the second verse, it says,
Gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're gonna round up.
that I thought was going to be the biggest issue with the song, was that it said gun, and that, will tend to get people talking sometimes about that. So
If anybody has a right to talk about guns, Jason Aldean's one of them, considering that he was at and playing at the concert in the Las Vegas shooting. And we saw how many people died from that. I mean, he has every right to talk about anything that is in regards to firearms in the United States because he has experienced it. I don't like David Hogg. I think David Hogg's a complete, I'm not gonna insult David Hogg. I just I don't like the kid, but he has a right, and he's went through it, and you should listen to what he has to say, whether you agree with it or not. Same thing with Jason Aldean. Whether you don't like him or you love him, it doesn't really matter. The point is he's been through something, and he should be heard because that first-hand experiential learning is crucial in understanding. Not necessarily opinion-based, but fact-based. That's really what we should be making our decision on. Opinions are nice, but ultimately they're a dime a dozen. But facts, those are the things that usually hide from most people because they only want to confirm their own biases.
I didn't expect it to get the kind of heat that it got. And I think that was more probably because of the video more so than the actual song.
Part of that heat was because of where the video was filmed, in front of the Murray County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, the site of a 1927 lynching of a black teen.
A 12:23, 4 o'clock. Look, I mean, come on. Of course, lynchings suck. That's horrible, but it's the South. I think he makes this argument later, and I made this argument every day on post, is you can't find a place in the South that doesn't have some sort of racism, that doesn't have atrocities. And in fact, you can't find a place in the world. Folks, I hate to tell you, but every single square inch of this planet at one time has been conquered by another people. That's horrible. But if we're really going to base it on the lessons of the past, this is just like Israel, what's happening now, where people are like, oh, well, Israel, these are the things that they've done throughout history, or these are the things that Palestine has done. Well, we have to have like a demarcation point where we jump off and say, okay, the past is the past. Now let's go ahead and focus on the last 10 years or the last 10 minutes at least, or anything other than looking back a millennia to try to go ahead and make lines of sinew to tie together the atrocities of the past with today. This is ridiculous. Of course he didn't know. None of you know either until the media came out and said, this courthouse had a lynching at it, therefore Jason Aldean is racist. Remember that logical fallacy that the lady made at the first point, where if you don't think that Jason Aldean is a racist, you're part of the problem. And this is the problem, where it doesn't matter what you do. As long as somebody says that this is the truth, you have to wear that around your neck for eternity. It's ridiculous.
For anybody that thinks that we picked that building specifically for that reason, because, there was a lynching there or whatever.
Did you know that?
No.
He took the island on Mars. Some bad things happened by some people.
But I also don't go back 100 years and check on the history of a place before we go shoot it either.
Right.
It's also the place that I go get my car tags every year. It's my county that I live in.
Would you do it in that courthouse again, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what I know now.
The answer to that is absolutely yes. This is the only part where he buckles a little bit. But you know what? This is kind of the olive branch of, maybe now that I know, but once again, good luck finding any place where you can film that isn't touched by racism or oppression or atrocities of the past, like I said before.
Probably not, but it's also, I don't think, again, I'm not going to go back 100 years and check on the history of this building. I mean, because honestly, if you're in the South, you could probably go to any small town courthouse. You're going to be hard pressed to find one that hasn't had some sort of, racial issue over the years at some point. I mean, that's just a fact.
Critics
Absolutely.
also slammed Aldean for the images. Aldean says he didn't choose the specific clips, but the overall look of the video was his idea. Inspired by Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire.
The whole idea behind the video was to show, the lawlessness and the, disrespect for cops and just, trashing cities and burning. I'm just not cool with that. So I don't know, I feel like the narrative really got switched over and became, more of a racial type thing. And it's like, if that's what you got out of the song and the video, I mean, I almost kind of feel like that's on you, because that wasn't
absolutely
our intention,
Aldean says the song may resonate with him more because news reports of crime and violence feel personal. He was on stage in Las Vegas when a gunman opened fire, killing 60 people at the Route 91 festival.
Vegas was 6 years ago. Like, how have you processed that?
It makes you mad. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like my pregnant wife was there. Our fans were there watching the show. All hell breaks loose, and you're not prepared. It's like, I got a guitar. What am I going to do?
Did you even know what was happening?
No,
Yeah.
not until a few minutes after we were off stage and stuff. But But yeah, I mean, I do think it makes you look at things a little different when you go through.
And he will continue to stand by what he's already said and try that in a small town.
I would do it over again every time.
Minus the setting.
Minus the setting. Knowing what I know now, obviously, knowing that was going to be a thing, maybe you look at doing it somewhere else. I know what the intentions were behind the location, the video, the song, all of it, and I stand by all that.
It's a fairly good interview. You haven't had a chance to check it out. Go, little echo. If you haven't had a chance to check it out. And the old adage is, once you've been shot at, everything else in life is kind of no big deal. Once you've had that experience, and it changes you for sure. The Nuts Straight, just breaking it down to you one step at a time, because that's what we try to do here. Not many cared about the video until it was called racist, right? Until you were prescribed what to think, and someone said, here you go. You need to be upset about this. You need to be mad. You can't tap your foot to this guy. He's a racist, Klan member, and all of the things that were said. And I would ask you to watch for that in the future, because it's going to happen again. It always does. They're, like I said, they're doing it right now with Palestine and Israel, is bringing up things from the past to try to justify what happened to Israel. And you can't justify, you can't dignify these things, but it doesn't mean people don't try. Everything that was implied about Jason Aldean, it's not his responsibility in any way, shape, or form. It's not his job. Until Jason Aldean comes out and says, I'm a racist, I wasn't from that town, or I lied about it, or I did pick it for that reason, you don't know what's going on in his head. You don't know if the marketing team just did it and he checked the video once and said, this is great. I have put out promo videos, and I guarantee there's things that I've included, whether it be some graphic design or some artwork or music from an artist that I'm not aware of, that I got royalty to through a production company, and that person may be in jail now. They may have done horrible things, but that doesn't mean that I'm somehow responsible for those things, and neither is Jason Aldean. Artists have been controversial for millennia. We can go back to Michelangelo. You can look at the Persians, the Ming Dynasty, Theon of Samos if you want to. It doesn't matter. Artists sing. They make sculptures. They paint. They use words to inspire people. And yes, sometimes the things that they talk about are not about being, cuddly in cupcake world. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. You have an option. You could always just not consume it. If this was a rap song, nobody would have cared. In fact, they would have been idolized and probably won Grammys. But that's the way the double standard works. If you don't like it, just turn it off, or close the book, or just don't avert your eyes. Don't look at it, because if you are always looking for something to be offended by, trust me, you will. If you go digging for trash, you're not always going to find treasure, but you'll always find trash. Maybe you don't like country, but more importantly, maybe you don't like the type of people who sing country. And that really is the nuts of it. It's not about black. It's not about white. It's not about somebody's sexual disposition or creed that makes them do horrible things. It's the choices that they make. So when you look at Jason Aldean and you say he's this way simply because he's white, or he's singing country, or he wears a certain shirt, that in itself is truly racist. But I don't expect anyone to be able to see that, because that would require them to stop listening and start thinking. In this day and age, it's a rare commodity. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. We're live tonight, 8 o'clock. I think everybody's in the house. We got Leroy, we got Olivia, we have Amy, myself, and Mike. We'll all be here. 5 people. It should be fun. Stop by the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Pick up your Red Friday shirt. Support the show at thedumbshow.com. Go over to Spreely.tv. Watch us. You can also go to thedumbshow.com and watch the live show there. If you don't want to go on social media, that's fine. But either way, we will go out like we always used to in the Veteran Crisis Hotline. Dial 988 and then press 1. If you're having thoughts of suicide, please remember your life is precious. All veterans are important. We love you. We care about you. And all you got to do is make that phone call. Thanks so much for watching, folks. We will see you tonight. God bless.